IT Help Desk, the field where you're going to be introduced to many different problems and you're expected to figure out the solution. So in this video, I've made a top 10 list of the most common tickets that I have ran into being a help desk technician for a little over a year. I'm going to go over what the ticket may say, some solutions, and what the root cause of the problem may be. So if you're interested in that, make sure to watch this video to the end. Hit that like button, subscribe if you guys are new and enjoy this content. 96.5% of you guys are not subscribed, so if you could hit that subscribe button, it'd be appreciated. I also have a Discord down below with people who are trying to get into IT, get their certifications, have any career questions. So I made a community. We hit 100 members recently, so I'm very thankful for that. So if you want to join the community of 100 plus members, make sure to do that. This top 10 list is not really in a particular order. I just made a top 10 list and listed them that way. So this is not like the most common to least common, nothing like that. I might say if this one's a more common issue or less common issue, but regardless, this is my top 10 list. So number 10, we have user management. This is definitely one of the most common things you'll run into. Almost every single help desk technician who's on site will definitely see these types of tickets come in. My dad calls it MACDs, so that's what I'm calling it. Move, add, change, delete. User management means pretty much whenever someone gets hired into the company, you have to make an account for them, set their password, set up their workstation, image the computer, set up their software, set up their desk even. Changing means, like, let's say someone gets a promotion, changing the group that they're in AD, things like that. Maybe changing their name. People get married, you change their name. Deleting users when people get terminated, things like that. Get fired or let go, they retire. Or moving users, and like I said, into different groups depending on if they get a new new position or if they have new responsibilities. So user management is something you'll get a lot. New hires, promotions, terminations, name changes, setting up emails. Depending on how you guys are set up, like let's say someone gets fired, some of their emails may need to be forwarded to another person, so you'll have to forward their email if someone sends them an email. OneDrive storage, if they had like cloud storage, and let's say their manager needs that data, making sure the manager gets that data. So there's a lot of different things that goes into user management. It varies from company to company, but regardless, every single company has user management because people have to get hired, people have to get fired, things like that. So that is my number 10. So software not working is an also very, very common ticket. Probably more common than user management. Definitely more common. I'm gonna put an emphasis on Office because almost every company uses Office, I believe. Office is very popular. If you don't know anything about Office, definitely learn that if you're going into IT. Office is like Excel, Word, Outlook, Teams. I'm going to put an emphasis on Excel and Outlook. So, Teams is also up there, but Outlook and Excel tend to have the most tickets created. But because it's common, I'm going to go over some of the issues and how maybe you can solve them. The thing about Excel I want to mention is if you have an Excel file on a shared folder, a folder that gets accessed by multiple people, and two people try to edit the same file at once, sometimes Excel will say another person's editing this file. Do you want to make a copy of it or do you want to overwrite it? Sometimes it won't even work when you try to do that. So sometimes you have to go in and deactivate the file that you were trying to edit so that whoever was in it before gets out of it, and then you're able to edit that file. Teams will have various issues. Some of the easy ones would be like input output not working. Like for example, if you're in a meeting, your microphone not working, that could be a whole different issue. It could be your microphone's not working, things like that. Outlook, a big thing for me is add-ins. A lot of people, Outlook likes to get rid of the Teams add-in a lot. So some of the add-ins are things that like to disappear sometimes and just vanish forever until you fix it. One thing I'll mention with Office related software issues is use Sara. That is SARA. It is a troubleshooting tool that Microsoft made for Office products because they realize that Office is a big product and has a lot of issues. So Sara can help out a lot. It helps more times than it doesn't when I use it. I usually do that when I do my basic troubleshooting steps and that doesn't work, and then I use Sara to try to save the day. Sometimes it does, sometimes it doesn't, but it's definitely worth a shot. Other software, like let's say there's software that crashes. Let's say, oh, this software, I click it, it doesn't open. That might mean the software is corrupted. It might be crashing. Check Event Viewer. Go to Event Viewer, Windows Logs, Application. If it's crashing, you should see application error 1000. It'll tell you what modules actually failing. Usually if a software keeps crashing, a reinstall is a good idea, or repair, if it has that option. Uninstall, reinstall is a good option, as long as that software doesn't have any user specific settings that they won't lose. And if there is, then make sure you back that up before you do so. Obviously updates, let's say software's not working, might need updated, might be out of date, things like that. Another thing I would like to mention is, let's say there's a desktop icon that goes to Excel, let's say, and it doesn't work, it doesn't do anything, and there's no crash error. That might mean that the shortcut doesn't work. So what you want to do is go into the actual program files, or wherever the application is stored, and actually click the executable instead of the desktop shortcut. That might work instead, because sometimes shortcuts can get corrupted. Let's say a file name changes or the location changes, that may mess up shortcuts. So that's another thing to think about. All right, next we have network issues. This could be a lot of different things. I'm gonna go over them briefly. It's a common ticket. A lot of people will probably experience network issue tickets. Let's say, well, first what you want to do is ask the user where they're at. If you have a VPN and people access stuff from home, that could be a whole different range of things. Let's say they're not connected to the VPN's broken on their computer, or let's say their internet connection is not really that great, but they're trying to connect to company resources and their internet service provider is not giving them fast enough speeds. So it really depends on the situation. If they're at home, make sure the VPN is working. If you have one, make sure their internet connection is up to par. You can have them do a speed test. If they're in office, if they're on Ethernet, making sure that their port is cleared, meaning the MAC address on the port gets cleared out so that they can actually get an internet connection. If they're on Wi-Fi, you can make sure they're on the right Wi-Fi network, make sure they're actually on the Wi-Fi, because sometimes they just don't get connected. You just have to actually just press connect manually. But yeah, make sure the VPN client works. If they're internal, make sure their Ethernet's actually working. If they're internal, usually you can actually go to their office. If they're able to submit a ticket via their computer, that means the internet is working to an extent. It could just be they can't access certain resources, so they might be like on the wrong VLAN, where it doesn't have enough network resources. But sometimes you'll have a networking team that will deal with that after that. But you're here to diagnose the issue. But those are some common things that you will see with network-related issues. Number 7, we have mobile device management, which, let's say you issue out phones, or you have a bring your own device policy, where people can bring their phone into work, get on the Wi-Fi, or access some company resources via Wi-Fi company portal by Intune is a good example of that, where you can have BYOD and you can have certain applications that can be installed on phones. So sometimes these tickets come in for a few reasons. It could be that, one, they need the actual application on their phone. Let's say it's BYOD. You don't set it up for them. They need it set up, or they need help setting it up. That'd be a ticket that comes in. Or let's say an application starts breaking, doesn't work, or they're not able to log into their like AD account on their phone. But if it's issued by the company, there may be certain things that don't work. But if you issue phone devices, you'll definitely get some tickets about mobile device management issues. Sometimes re-enrolling the phone can help. Let's say someone gets a new phone, you might have to delete their old phone out of the system before you get the new phone in there. It's not as common, but mobile device issues definitely happen. All right, next we have the infamous printers. IT's best friend. I am totally kidding. Printers suck. Nobody likes dealing with them. But you do have to deal with them in an IT help desk job. It could be so let's say someone submits a ticket saying their printer doesn't work. That can mean a lot of different things. If they don't have it added, you could add it for them there's a few ways you could add printers. You can use the file share to add printers. But let's say they had a printer added and it's not printing at all. That could be a few things. First thing I do is check the print queue. If you can't even do that, it's not connecting, it's likely a network issue with the printer. But if you're able to check the print queue, there might be something hanging up the other documents, so you could cancel that out. Restarting the print spooler and services on the server can also help. You might not have that access though. But also, like I said, check the network connection. If other people are able to print but this one person can't, re-add the printer. Delete it and re-add it. Deleting it and re-add it is also a pretty good first step if someone's having issues printing, just because it takes 2 seconds to do, and that might fix the issue real quick. But if they're not even able to connect at all and no one else is, that means there's a network issue with the printer, or there's some there's a connection issue between the printer and the server. So you have to diagnose that. Let's say you set the printer on a DHCP mode, which means it gets it could get a different IP address. That means on the server it could change, which that'd be bad. Set static IP addresses on printers. Don't do that. But yeah, printers are fun. You might have to take the whole thing apart to fix the issue. It could just be toner, things like that. But printers are very common, and definitely learn a little bit about printers before you start your first help desk job. All right, next we have access requests and software requests. This is a very common ticket that I get all the time because it could be a wide range of things. I'm going to go over a lot of things real quick. Access requests could be anything from shared folders, a SharePoint website, like I said, a file share, getting remote desktop privileges if your company does that. It could also be software requests, software purchases, licensing purchases. You'll get a lot of these, and depending on your policies, you definitely want to be careful on what access you are giving people, because you are given a great power by being in IT. Likely you have admin, local admin, domain admin, whatever it is. You'll likely have more power than the regular user. So you want to make sure they go through the right tunnels to get the right access. Don't give anyone too much access that they don't need. The principle of least privilege is what you should follow, meaning only give them enough to where they can do their job properly, and no more than that. Don't give them any extra access, because that could be a security risk. But it could be as easy as adding a user to a group to access file share. But like I said, many companies are going to be different. So there's going to be an approval process. Maybe it has to go to their manager, or maybe I have no idea. It could go anywhere to get access, but make sure you follow company policy. As far as software requests, you get permission to install the software. If it's a whitelisted software, you can push it out via your mobile device management software, or like SCCM, Intune, whatever you use to push out software. But like I said, make sure it goes through the right tunnels to get access, because if they have too much access and something happens, you might be a little responsible for giving them too much access without permission. So definitely be careful of that. Next, we have accidental deletion and recovery. This is going to be backing up data. Let's say someone accidentally deletes an important file in a file share, or their OneDrive, or on their local computer. You're responsible for at least trying to back up that data. It might not be in your power that you have backups or whatever, depending on your company, because as a help desk tech, you're not really going to have that say in where data gets backed up, but you will be trained on how to back data up. So depending on what you have at your company. So let's say you have a file share, someone deletes a file and it's gone. You could use restore previous versions via Windows. You could click the folder that it was in, and it'll show all the previous versions. I believe that has to be turned on though. OneDrive, if they delete a file, usually goes in the recycle bin for a certain amount of days. I think it might be 30 to 90 days, somewhere in that range, that it will stay in the recycle bin. So someone might be panicked saying, I deleted a really important file, and it's really just in their recycle bin. Same with the local computer. If you have an Excel file on your desktop, you delete it, they might think it's gone, but it's really in their recycle bin. So make sure you check that first. But let's say a file share, if important file gets deleted, you can't restore it via restore previous versions. You might have incremental backups on a different file server. Usually you'll have a backup file server. And depending on what you have, you can restore it that way. But this might be this is going to be a ticket probably you'll get. It just happens. People delete stuff. People make mistakes. And your job is to fix it. So that's how it goes. Then next one we have is blue screen of death, otherwise known as BSOD. It could be a lot of different things. So pretty much a blue screen is when your computer fails and it needs to reboot, or it's just dead. It could be a lot of different things. It could be as simple as a system process crashing and it's just fine when it comes back up. It could be faulty RAM, bad drivers, out of date drivers. It could be a lot of different things. But if it does happen, that means that the end user is not able to work. If it keeps coming up, that they're definitely not able to work. But sometimes it'll come up, they restart, and then they're good. But when you do get this ticket, ask the end user if they got the error code. I think that's what it's called. But it's the sequence of words. Like, for example, there'll be critical process failed, something like that. Critical _process _ failed, something like that. It might be died instead, but depending on those, you could see the generic error, what it actually means. There's a repository of all those errors. If they don't remember it, that's fine. You can go to Event Viewer into System Logs and find that out. You can also analyze the dump file. I do that when it's a more obscure situation. For example, if it's a driver, it's kind of important to know what driver is actually failing. So the way you can get the dump file is you go to C, Windows, and then the file is called memory.dmp. You can copy that file. It's usually a couple gigabytes. And then you can use the Win debug tool. I think it's WINDBG tool. It's in the Windows store. I might be wrong, but look it up. WinDBG is how you can analyze these dump files. And once you analyze it, it should say the faulting module. I think that's what it says. And then it has the driver that failed or the application that caused the blue screen. And using that, you can actually diagnose what actually caused it. Could have been an application that just caused the computer to take a crap. Sometimes it happens. It could have been a graphics driver. That's pretty common. But blue screen of deaths are going to come up if you're using Windows devices. It's obviously Windows proprietary. If you have a blue screen of death, if you have Windows devices, it's likely going to happen because Windows is like that. And yeah. Then this one we have the very well-known issue, forgot password. Nowadays, it's a little different. Companies are different. Some still use just passwords, and that's all they use with AD, Active Directory. So if someone forgot their password, you can verify it's them, depending on your company's policies, because you don't want to reset a password of somebody that is not them, and then they get into the account of the person who forgot their password. So definitely make sure that you verify who it is, or if they physically come to you, things like that. But you can reset their password on Active Directory. You just right-click their user account, reset password, then they can log back in and change the password. But a lot of companies nowadays use a multi-factor authentication, which is like two-step, pretty much a password and a key, or a password and a authenticator, password and or you could use Face ID, things like that. Security key with a PIN, stuff like that. Smart cards, another one. So depending on what it is, you can reset the pins on those devices, smart cards and security keys. You can reset the pins via Microsoft has options for that. Like if you're using Windows, you can log into their Microsoft account and reset their security device. So there's many different ways to reset passwords nowadays. You don't even need AD if you're using Entra to have the accounts. So you can just go into their account, change the password, do all that kind of stuff. This is the one that everyone's been waiting for. Computer doesn't work. It doesn't work. It's broken. Fix it. That's the best ticket. People think it's a joke. Those tickets come in all the time, or their computer's slow. Those tickets do come in. Sometimes they are not descriptive at all. Like not at all. It just says computer doesn't work. So sometimes you'll get those tickets and you'll have to figure out why. Depending on what it is, let's say they're in the building physically, you can go to the actual computer and view it. Let's say the computer's turned off, it's not plugged in. That could be it. The monitor might have not been plugged in. That could be it. It could be that it can't boot to Windows. The boot options might have been messed up and it's like trying to boot to Pixie or something like that. But yeah, make sure that it's plugged in. Start with the easy stuff. If it's plugged in, okay. Does it light up when I push the power button? Okay. Does it boot up? If it doesn't, then you can kind of see, okay, it might be the hard drive, or maybe Windows is broken, or it could be the boot options. If their computer is slow, it could be a lot of different things. I always like to check their hard drive capacity before I do anything else, just because you could kind of tell either like how long they've been using it. If you check the capacity, you can see if it's a hard drive or SSD via Task Manager. You could just look right at there and it'll tell you if it's a hard drive or not. Hard drives are way slower than SSDs, and nowadays, if you're using Windows, you should use an SSD for your boot drive. So if they have a hard drive in there, get them an SSD. It's a cheap option and it works. It's way better than buying a whole new computer. If they're at capacity, see if you could delete stuff. A good thing to look at is if you have OneNote. OneNote can take up the most amount of space imaginable. I've seen a folder take up 80 gigabytes from OneNote backups. Not fun. But it could just be they've had that computer for a long time and they're just running out of space. Or if the hard drive only has like 128 gigabytes capacity or SSD, if that's all it has, maybe they need something more. Because Windows usually takes up like 50 gigabytes, so they might not have a lot of space to do things like that. Also check Task Manager. That's a very common way to check the memory usage, GPU usage, CPU usage, the hard drive usage. If you see the hard drive at 100%, that's your issue. I'm just going to tell you that right now. If RAM is high, it could be having too many like Google Chrome tabs open or like applications open. If it's the CPU, it also could be applications, but usually if the CPU is constantly at 100, the computer's probably not up to par of what it should be. Depending on the situation, you may need to replace certain units and things like that. But those are some ways you can diagnose why it might be slowing down. So that is my top 10 list of most common IT tickets that I've seen. If you have any questions or if you have anything to add, comment down below. I'd like to see some of your guys' ideas and what you guys run into, because I'm sure there's so many things that I did not cover that I could have covered. But yeah, if you have any questions, leave them down below. Like I said, join my Discord if you guys have not already. I have over 100 members, and we like to help each other out. If people have questions on certifications, I can help them out. Or if they have career advice or they need resume help, that's something that I like to do on that Discord. So join that down below. Subscribe if you haven't already. This is Jamesy Tech. Thank you guys for watching. And I will see you guys next time. Bye-bye.